The most criticized, the most doubted, yet the most game-changing quarterback in NFL history, from a 1.5 GPA in high school to being labeled as a wide receiver in the NFL, Lamar Jackson has overcome every obstacle in his way to becoming the best. But you see, for Lamar, he's not always been at the top, but he's always had one thing that made him different. See, Lamar grew up down in Pompano Beach in South Florida. This is a particularly rough part of the region. The chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime in this city is 1 in 36. Now, despite this, South Florida has raised many elite athletes, but they all had to overcome the hardships and the adversity set by this city. Lamar Jackson, he grew up in the heart of the chaos. Lamar Jackson's dad died of a heart attack the same day that his grandmother died back in 2005 when Lamar was just 8 years old. This left Lamar and his siblings alone with just their mother to raise them. Now, to keep her kids out of trouble, sports became their lifestyle. Lamar was thrown into Pop Warner football that year and actually played in the same Florida league that his future NFL teammate Marquise Brown, who is on the Cardinals now, played for. He was just 8 years old, and it was said that Lamar could already throw the ball over 20 yards. So everyone around him knew he was going to be a star. Fast forward to high school, Lamar Jackson is a freshman walking in the doors of Santa Lucies High School. Lamar was quickly given the opportunity to become the starting quarterback, and you could see his raw ability start to take over on the field. But off the field, things weren't going as well. Lamar was struggling in school and at home. He would rather watch cartoons instead of film and just wasn't invested into the game like he should have been. As a sophomore, Lamar got a shot playing on the field again, but couldn't handle the pressure. He finished his sophomore year with a 1.5 GPA and finally realized he needed to make a change. So his mom pulled him out of school and he transferred to Boynton Beach High School. Lamar had said, "I didn't have any expectations at first because my 10th grade year I had a 1.5 GPA. School comes first, and I found out the hard way. I completed my 10th grade year, I was hurt, but I trained that year. I felt I owed it to my team and my mother. My assistant principal at Boynton High School was with me along the way." See, this is where the switch finally flipped for Lamar. He quickly took over their high school football team and became addicted to the grind, something that now has played a major key to his success in the NFL. Lamar said that this year is where he learned to love the film room. His high school coach, Rick Swain, would always gush over his dual threat ability and his freak athleticism, but his biggest compliment was when he said Jackson would spend hours a week watching film, which for a high school student, that is incredibly rare to find. This, combined with his athletic ability, led to absolute dominance on the field, but that's where his biggest problem began. In 2 years at Boynton Beach, Jackson threw for 2,263 yards, alongside 31 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Additionally, he ran for 1,624 yards and had a quarterback rating of 102.7, with 22 touchdowns and had a quarterback rating of 102.7. Now, Lamar was balling, but he had not hit the mainstream. Boynton Beach is not a notorious powerhouse. He is just one of 2 NFL players to have ever come out of that school. Lamar was fighting for collegiate offers, ranked just a 3-star quarterback. That was until one play changed everything. Lamar lined up against Village Academy and his Beach team marched to a 48-20 win. Statistically speaking, this was not Lamar's best game. He did run 7 times for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he went just 7 for 18 passing with 52 yards. They were winning, the game was going great, but that's when it happened.
Jackson's a project. He's not Sam Darnold. He's not Josh Rosen. You watched them last night. He's not even close.
Lamar Jackson went viral as he stepped back and pointed at his defender as he walked into the end zone. This clip right here took over the internet. Millions of eyes all of a sudden were on Lamar Jackson, and he quickly became a star. Things were good, but let's remember that stat line: 131 yards rushing and only 52 yards passing. As schools came knocking at his door, they weren't there for a quarterback. They wanted him at receiver. Big schools from all across the country came, including Florida State. FSU was a dominant recruiter down in South Florida, and as many young Floridian athletes dream to become a Seminole. Now, Florida State was actually interested in Lamar, but they wanted him in the defensive backfield. Other schools, they were skeptical that Jackson, whose athletic abilities were beyond parallel, would ever be able to throw the ball with enough stick. The president of Elite Scouting Services, Charlie Fishbein, said, "I was surprised more schools didn't buy in." One SEC school whose offense was a perfect fit and is now struggling with QB play didn't think he could play for them. And at Boynton Beach, this was bothersome. Boynton Beach athletic director Evan Caruso had said he was at times forced to move around and improv a lot of his plays, and it might have got him hurt on the recruiting trail because they didn't really get to see him as much as they probably would have liked sitting back and throwing the ball. But he's beyond accurate and is very knowledgeable with his X's and O's. I think that's something they kind of dropped the ball on. See, Jackson's completion percentages, they hovered around 40 and 50% in high school, but his skills were obvious. He could flick the ball down the field with a motion motion that seemed to mimic a second baseman throwing to first. With Power 5 schools from all over the country looking to grab Jackson, how did he end up at Louisville? It was one of the spots that would give him a shot at quarterback, but they're not a powerhouse. Well, you see the true reason, it's much deeper. Louisville's receivers coach at the time was Lamar Thomas. He actually played high school football for Lamar's high school coach back up in Gainesville. Thomas, who was moving from Western Kentucky with coach Bobby Petrino to Louisville, got a call from his old high school coach Rick Swain. "I told him I've got something special here that you need to take a look at," Swain said. Thomas became Jackson's lead recruiter and landed him, holding off heavy interest from Florida, Nebraska, and a host of others. Louisville at this time actually featured one of the best QBs in the country, Teddy Bridgewater, who also happened to be from South Florida. Teddy is a South Florida legend, and Lamar honestly really looked up to him at that time. But it was coach Bobby Petrino that really intrigued Lamar. Running QBs thrived in the Petrino system, but his biggest offer to Lamar was that he would make him a real quarterback. You see, Lamar had all the athletic abilities anyone could ever dream of, but what he lacked was the mental capabilities to be an elite quarterback. "I can't study this." That's what Lamar said he remembers thinking when he opened his college playbook for the first time. It was spring of 2015. He had just finished his starring run as the Boynton Beach quarterback, scoring more than 50 points a game that year. He picked Louisville knowing coach Petrino's history of developing quarterbacks. Then when Petrino delivered in the playbook, Lamar said, "It looked like foreign letters. I came from a high school where I didn't have a playbook or anything like that. Coach would draw it up and get the headset on and we'd go after it." The Louisville coaches quickly got to work trying to teach Lamar the ins and outs of the design, all while he was still a senior in high school. Whether he could play quarterback at a college, let alone NFL level, remained to be seen, but Petrino knew he'd be able to use that speed somehow. And so when Jackson arrived on campus, he actually wasn't even named among one of the three guys who might be the starting quarterback. The playbook was still Greek to him, as were his progressions, tight ends, motions, and especially blitzes. So his education, it started at home. Jackson's mom would pick him up from high school, carrying his playbook, and they would sit down together to figure it out. It continued with Jackson wearing virtual reality goggles at Louisville to be able to see and understand coverages. It included lonely daily sessions at 6 a.m. in one of Louisville's football meeting rooms where Jackson was to watch film of himself over and over so he could see what everyone on the field was doing. It was just Jackson and the film. Lamar had said at first, "I was like, why are they trying to make me do this? I'm trying to sleep. It was crazy. I'd watch my bad plays, my good plays too." There was a much easier way to go about this. Louisville could have just put Jackson in a read option offense where plays are called for him. He could just run around quickly, make easy throws without having to read the defense. But no, that's not what was happening at Louisville. Because to Louisville's disbelief, when Jackson showed up on campus, it turned out he could pass big time, not just throws. He was an elite passing QB. And throughout camp, Jackson kept learning and proved that he had it in him. So when the first game came around, Petrino put him out there against Auburn for his first experience. Jackson said he thought he might go in for a play or two, but Petrino had always planned to use him more. He just hadn't told Lamar that because he didn't want to make him nervous. And on Jackson's first collegiate play, he lined up and threw an interception. But Petrino never gave up on the young QB. The two worked until Lamar became a star. As a freshman at Louisville in 2015, Jackson played 12 games and made 8 starts in the Cardinals' 8-5 season. He completed 135 of 247 passes with 1,840 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Can't forget he also had 960 yards on the ground with 11 touchdowns. The nation had took notice. Hopes were high for next season. And Lamar, he exceeded them all. Because of Lamar's unique ability to adapt, he became must-watch TV. During the first game of his sophomore year against the Charlotte 49ers, Jackson set a university record for total touchdowns with 8, all coming in just the first half. And Lamar would continue to have one of the greatest QB seasons in college football history. He was selected as the 2016 Heisman over fellow finalists Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, D.D. Westbrook, and Jabril Peppers. He became Louisville's first ever Heisman Trophy winner and the youngest recipient ever of the award at just 19 years old and 337 days. He was on top of the world, but in came the doubters.
I have predicted, and I'll say it again, Tebow 2.0 is coming. It's Lamar Jackson.
We now know a number of teams have also requested that Jackson work out with the wide receivers as well.
Whether he will ever be a good enough passer to be a winning NFL quarterback, as everyone here says, there's a lot of work to do there.
Lamar still had 1 year of college football left, but the media was already focused on his NFL future. Members of the media claimed that Lamar was no more than a gadget player in the NFL. This was because whether they liked it or not, Lamar is an African-American QB with blazing speed. Despite the fact that he was a very good passer, he doesn't fit the typical mold of an NFL quarterback, and NFL scouts, they just couldn't get their mind off that. So after another stellar season at Louisville, Lamar declared for the draft and was selected by the Baltimore Ravens in the first round with the 32nd overall pick. The QBs who were picked before him were Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. As a rookie, on November 18th, 2018, Lamar Jackson made his first NFL start against the Cincinnati Bengals in place of the injured Joe Flacco. Jackson went 13 of 19 for 150 yards, a pick, and 117 yards on the ground, which was a franchise record for Ravens quarterbacks in a single game, and led his team to the win. Jackson would go on to lead the Ravens to the playoffs in place of Joe Flacco that year. Once the 2018 season was over, the Ravens coaching staff decided to abandon the offensive strategy that was designed for Joe Flacco and created a new offensive philosophy centered around the specific skills of Lamar Jackson. The philosophy included changing everything in the playbook, the terminology used, how they draft, and how they sign free agents. Everything was made to complement Lamar's skills. The Ravens saw the vision and adapted, but the rest of the NFL, they didn't. Analysts were still convinced that Lamar was just not a full-time starting QB. How could somebody be so fast yet light and not get injured like Lamar? But Lamar, he did not listen. You see, Lamar's biggest asset is not his elite athletic ability. It isn't how good of a passer he is. It isn't anything physical. What Lamar is best at is adapting. Lamar himself knew that he could be a better passer, so he worked for it and became one. Lamar learned the game. He learned what people on the field around him were doing. You look back to Louisville, and instead of declining the grind and just being a regular old read option gadget player, Lamar made things happen. He stayed extra in the film room. He stayed extra on the field. Never being complacent, no matter the haters, no matter the critics. Lamar kept going and getting better day by day. And in the NFL, that is what has led him to this success. Obviously, we all know what happened the very next season. Lamar became the league MVP. He became the second player after Tom Brady to be voted unanimously, and the second youngest player only to Jim Brown. For most guys, this is the peak. He was the best player in the entire world that year, but he knew he could do better. I want to fast forward to present day, the 2023-2024 NFL season. The Baltimore Ravens have clinched the 1 seed in the AFC. Lamar Jackson, he is far and alone as the favorite to win the MVP once again, but this is not the same Lamar who won it before. This Lamar, he doesn't run like he used to. This Lamar is not winning games with his elite elusive abilities, although don't get me wrong, it does help. This Lamar Jackson is winning games with his mind. Lamar suffered a series of injuries the past few years, and for most rushing QBs, that is their demise. We saw with Cam Newton, once he started to get hurt, he fell off. But Lamar, after the injuries, he has only gotten better. Instead of taking on hits like he used to, Lamar has learned to use that unique instinct and athletic presence to avoid sacks and hits. He gets down early on the run but stays alive in the pocket. Lamar isn't using his feet to make plays downfield. Lamar is using them to make plays in the backfield. The Lamar Jackson of 2024 is a pocket passer. And not just any, he is one of the best in the entire NFL. I mean, he just lit up my Miami Dolphins, throwing for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns. In the biggest game of the season. Despite all that, Lamar Jackson is my vote for MVP this year. And the crazy part is, he's also my vote for the most improved player of the year, which is crazy since he already has won a unanimous MVP before. His ability to adapt and maneuver is the reason he will go down as one of the best to ever do it, not solely because of his legs. My name is Cullen, and you should hit subscribe if you agree with me that Lamar should win the MVP. And even if you don't, you should still click it as well, because we are posting high quality videos about the NFL every single week on this channel. And one of my favorite things to do is bring ideas that you guys have to life. So let me know in the comments what video we should be making next. And Happy New Year. I will see you all very soon.